Hello. For this lesson, we're going to talk about the period and the phase shift or the horizontal shift with sine and cosine functions. So we've talked about them separately, but we have not done problems with them together. So that's what we're going to do. So this is just a review about the two different functions that we've learned, sine theta and cosine theta. So we've talked about their equations. And today we're going to talk what happens with a graph when we have both a period change and a horizontal change. So again, up until this point, we've done one or the other, but we've not done the both. So this is a factored form for these two. And that's a preferred method or preferred form, because if it's not, when you have this together, you're going to say, oh, that's the horizontal shift where it's not. So let's look at that. Let me write you an example. So here you're going to say, oh, so here's B. B is 2. So the period is going to be 2 pi over 2, which is going to equal pi. And you're going to say, okay, then the horizontal shift is going to be 4 pi. And the answer is no, it's not. So this is where you have to be careful. So because this is not factored out, that actually changes it. So if you factor that 2 out, this is not going to be 4 pi. It's going to be something else. All right, so let's talk about how to find that. All right, so if we're looking at this first problem, let's look. Is it in factored form or not? Okay, and the direction says find the period and the horizontal shift for each. Okay, it's in factored form, so it's okay. So you're like, all right, factored form. Therefore, this is B. So the period is 2 pi over B, which will simplify to 1/3. Sorry, pi over 3. And then the phase shift is also pi over 3. Okay. So let's look at this one. Is it in factored form? It's not. Factored form, you would have a number in front of the parentheses. There's nothing in front. But still, we can see our B. So our B is going to be a half. So our period is 2 pi over 1 over 2, which equals 4 pi. So that's our period. Now what about our phase shift? Well, now we have to change it to factored form. So we're going to have to factor out the half. All right, and this is what confuses some people when we are about to do this. So what I do, you have to think about, okay, remember when we do this, it's a reverse of distribution. So whatever I multiply, half times something here, the end result has to be pi. So what I do is do the reciprocal. So what is the reciprocal of half? Is 2. And then what do I have here is pi, so it's going to be 2 pi. And that is actually the phase shift, because now we're in factor form. And you're like, wait, how do you know? So let's double check. So remember, if I multiply it, I have to get this. So half times x is going to be x over 2. Half times 2 pi, right, is going to be 2 pi over 2, which does simplify to pi. So again, I multiplied the reciprocal, right? These are reciprocals. All right, so my phase shift is now -2 pi. All right? Because now you're in factored form. All right, so let's go back to the next problem. Ignoring the phone. Okay, so what's RB? Is it in factored form? No. So why don't we write it in factored form now? So since we're here, actually, let's put it over here. I should have left a bigger gap. Okay, so I have a cosine here. I'm going to factor out. So I'm going to take out the 3 and x. All right, and I have 4 pi. So what's the reciprocal of 3? 1 over 3. So I'm going to have 4 pi over 3. Okay, and again, you can check it. You multiply, that's going to be 3x. If you're going to multiply that, that's going to 4 pi and 3 over 3, right? And that's going to, or 3 times 4 is 12, and then 3 goes into 4, 12. It's probably what you would have done. Sorry, you would have done this. You would have said 12 pi over 3. 3 goes into 12 4 times. So 4 pi, that's the same thing. All right, so this is in factored form. So my b is 3. So 2 pi over 3. So my period is 2 pi over 3. And my horizontal shift is 4 pi over 3. All right, one more. All right, so we're just looking here. Right? This is a vertical, but that does not have anything to do with the period nor the horizontal shift. So we're looking over here. So my b is 1/4. Throw that out. So it's pi over 3, and you're going to do a reciprocal of 1/4, which is 4. There you are. So the b is 1/4. So 2 pi over 1/4, it's going to equal 8 pi. So my period is 8 pi. My horizontal shift is 4 pi over 3. All right. So that's just doing the math with it. So I just wanted to practice this without actually doing the graph. Let's go back to this problem because you're probably like, Mendoza, why didn't we actually find it for here? Okay. So if we're looking over here, let's factor out the 2. So this part does not change. Factor out the 2, so I have an x, and then it would be 2 pi, right? So does the reciprocal thing that I talked about earlier work? So you have 4 pi, the reciprocal for 2 is half, so it goes here. So yes, see, it works. But I know this, that you would know the common factor between 2 and 4 is 2. All right, so let's try graphing. So the first question is this in factored form? And the answer is yes, so I don't have to change it. So my period, so we find our b, oops, my bad, which is 4. So my period is 2 pi over b, which is going to be pi over 2. The amplitude is 3. Horizontal shift, again, because it is in factored form, is negative pi over 4, which is left. And then this is 0. All right. So for this one, my period, so I'm going to take this and put my period over here. And we're sine. Okay. Halfway. What's half of a half? 1/4. What's a half of a 1/4? An 1/8. Right? So if you're not sure about these two, like what goes between these two, you can use a common denominator. So This is going to be 4. This is 2/4. So I had said before, you add them together and divide by 2. So this is going to be, okay, so that's going to be, add them together, that's 3 pi over 4 divided by 2. So that is going to be 3 pi over 8. Multiplying 4 to the top and the bottom, that will undo. 2 times 4 is 8. Another way to think about it is that every 2, since you know this is 1/8, right? So every 2 lines is 1/8. So this is 2/8, which does reduce to 1/4. This is 3/8, and this would be 4/8, which reduces to a half. Yeah. So going backwards. Okay, so there you are. And I think for this one, I like to do an intermediate graph. And I like to do one that has everything except the phase shift. I always like to graph that first. Because for me, once I have that, the shift is easier. So we have our period. And we're going to do amplitude. Don't forget to label the y-axis. Okay, and we're doing sine. So here, yeah, so we're going to go up, back to the x, down, back up. Can do that over here. So we have this. Okay. So for me, once you have this, doing a horizontal shift is much easier because then all I have to do is take my point and move it over whatever that shift is, and everything else is done. So we're going to go to the left, pi over 4. So how much is pi over 4? Well, that is 4. Right? 4 over. So here's going to go, actually, let's start here. Here's going to go 4 over. This is going to go 4 over. 1, 2, 3, 4. Shifting. So all the x-intercepts are still x-intercepts. But it looks like, okay, so I know, and I have no more points because this one moved that way, but if I'm down, it has to go up, right? And then back down. So pretty. So there we go. It is graphing with a period and a horizontal shift. I graphed something simpler, right? Just this part, and then I did the horizontal shift afterwards. Right. All right. So let's try this one. Now, is this in factored form? It is not. So we're going to rewrite it in factored form. So I'm going to take out and factor out the 2. So what's the reciprocal of 2? Half. Then you're going to multiply it by pi. Oops, sorry. And then we have plus 1. Okay. So our b is 2. We're going to find our period. 2 pi over 2, which is pi. Our amplitude is 1. The horizontal shift now, so over here is pi over 2, and it's to the right. Vertical shift is up 1. So for this one, I'm going to do a graph of this first. So I'm going to do the period change with the vertical shift, and then afterwards I'll do the horizontal shift. So my period is pi. Oh, this one's already numbered. It's great, like it. And we're doing cosine. All right, so cosine 1, 2, 1, 2, negative, negative. Okay, so I'm shifting everything up 1. So that tells me I have a new line, a midline. It's going to be here. And 1 period is going to be from 0 to pi here. Okay, so that means we start up. So because we're shifting up 1, we usually start at 1, but we're going to go start at 2. And we're going to end there. Okay, we're going to end here. Okay, so please remember, I'm just going to put a highlighter so we remember. This is 1 period. 1 period is pi. Right from here to here. All right, so cosine goes down, to our midline, and then halfway it goes completely to the lowest point, which is our valley. So our valley is a dip in the land. It's not flat, it's not a hill. So a hill is above, and then this is like flat, and then a valley is a dip, is underneath. Okay, flat, dip, flat, up. Okay, and doing it on this side. Again, this is not our final graph. Intermittent graph. The reason why I like an intermittent graph, again, it's helping. And I know you're doing it by hand. I know that you're just not looking online and get an app and you just type it in and do the final product. And you're not just copying something. All right, so now we are going to shift it pi over 2 to the right. So pi over 2. So we're looking over here, pi over 2 is 1, 2. So we're moving all my points. Okay, so similar it looks like to the last graph. It's 1, 2. Okay. That's pretty cool. I like it. I'm just smiling. I'm smiling at my work. Just so pleased with myself. Yay. All right. Let's try one more. All right. Is it in factored form? No. Okay. Couldn't ask you to rewrite that. So -3, that part doesn't change. Cosine. All right. So here's your B. Factor out that half. So we're going to do the reciprocal. And 2 pi over 4, that's what it would be. So your reciprocal is a half is 2, which you'd multiply. And then that simplifies to pi over 2. Okay. So my period is, my B is half. So my period is 2 pi over a half, which will equal 4 pi. That's Mocha. All right, so our amplitude is 3. Remember, it is always positive. Our horizontal shift is now negative pi over 2. Okay, and no vertical shift. All right, so we're going to go up 3, stretching. And we're stretching and flipping. All right, so for our period, it is 4 pi. It's here. Here's 4 pi. Halfway of 4 pi, half of 4 is 2 pi. Half of 2 is 1 pi. So this is 3 pi. Okay. So I'm going to graph, like I said, everything except the horizontal shift. So I'm going to graph this. Okay. So I'm stretching and flipping, so you have to be careful. So usually you start up here, right? That's usually where you start because cosines start at top. But it says opposite. Opposite means, okay, down. We're going to reflect here. So for one period, you're going to now you're going from bottom to bottom. Then we're going to 0, and now you're going to the highest peak, and then back down. So here, here, and here, and there. Okay. All right, and now we have to do a horizontal shift. You're going to do negative pi over 2. So we have to see where that is. And we're moving to the left. Right? Okay. So if I'm looking here on our graph, so pi over 2, this is pi, right, is 2 lines. So half of pi is pi over 2. So that's going to be 1. We're moving 1 line to the left. So we're taking each of these points and going just to the left. 1. Here, 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 here. So go that way. So do you see why I like to do the horizontal or phase shift last? Because that makes it much easier. I've tried other ways, but for me, this works. And maybe you have a different method that works for you. It's fine. And there we go. Again, just so satisfying. Feels so good when you see something that you've done. You're just like, wow, so good. Yay. All right, let's write an equation. So this has the period shift and the horizontal shift. So I'm going to write in factored form and then multiply it out. Okay, so we know it's a cosine. We know their period is pi. We have a horizontal shift and we have a vertical shift. All right, so with the period, we have to find b. So remember the period equals 2 pi over b. So I know the period is pi, so that goes there. So b times pi equals 2. The pi's are going to cancel out, so b equals 2. All right, so it's going to be f of x equals, don't forget to have something on this side. It's not an equation if you don't have this part. So we have cosine. It is amplitude of 3. Right? The b in factored form is going to be on the outside. X minus the horizontal shift minus the vertical shift. So this is factored form. The other form would be multiplied out. 2 over 4 would be pi over 2. There you are. Right, here are 2 problems to practice on your own. Don't forget to scale your graph, your axes. Every time I write that in your comments, to scale it means put some numbers here. I need numbers. So you have this, I need numbers. So this is scaled, right? And then you need something here. What goes over there, right? And I would like not just one number, I would like at least 4, 2 on the positive side and 2 on the left. It will help you to make sure that you put your points in the right place, right? Right, don't forget to answer the EQ. Thanks for watching. Bye.